This is Alcohol Freedom Finders. In this episode, we meet Jeanette Levitt, whose drinking became a problem in the aftermath of a painful divorce. On re-entering the dating world, she thought that drinking was the only way to appear confident and sexy. But when she found alcohol freedom herself, she realised that she'd been wrong. And as she puts it, there's actually nothing confident or sexy about being a sloppy drunk. She's now a coach who specialises in helping those navigating the same all too common challenges that she faced. Let's meet Jeanette.
Welcome everybody to Alcohol Freedom Finders podcast with me, Justine Clark, and my fellow coach, Barry Condon. Today we are super excited to welcome Jeanette Levitt with us. She was in our coaching cohort and is a marvellous human being, and also now specialises in the 3Ds. So Jeanette, why don't you tell us about those 3Ds?
So the 3Ds are drinking, divorce, and then dating. So my story surrounds divorce and dating, and I mean, my drinking escalated during those events, parts of my life. So it seems like an appropriate niche for me.
That's brilliant. Why don't you, talking of your story, why don't you take us back to when you decided it was something your drinking at least was something you needed to change?
Okay. So I was somewhat of a late bloomer, I guess, because my drinking escalated when my life took a turn that was really unexpected. So it was the divorce that started drinking more heavily. I didn't drink very much during my marriage. I was raising 4 kids. So I was pretty much a pretty light drinker. But then the divorce was a surprise, and it was just a really difficult time. So that's when I started to just turn to alcohol to kind of help get me through some of it. And then there was just a series of other events. I mean, stuff happens at midlife, as we all know. So I lost my dad, my grandmother, and then I had a cancer diagnosis. This was all like within a year. So it was just kind of, everything was kind of hitting. And yeah, I found myself just turning to alcohol to numb and escape a lot of it.
Yeah, I mean, I really resonate with that. I think that it's almost a surprise when you realise, hang on a minute, I was never a heavy drinker. Why is it now that I'm the person drinking a bottle a day and looking for more, going, that wasn't enough? It comes up, creeps up when you start using it for, other reasons other than socialising. When you start using it for yourself, then all of a sudden it becomes a prop that you don't want to live without. So I really resonate with that from my own story, Jeanette, and thanks for sharing that.
Oh yeah.
How did you overcome that?
Well, I think for a lot of, I was pretty much a middle lane drinker or a gray area drinker where I was binge drinking. I wasn't a daily drinker, but I knew it was becoming a real problem. I knew it was holding me back, but I just kept trying to, be this good drinker, this normal drinker. And I would like set these rules in place, and then, a few weeks later or whatever, I would break them. But I just had this nagging sense that this wasn't good for me. I just didn't, I didn't know there were options out there. I thought it was AA or nothing. And I just didn't resonate with that. So I just kept on, for years trying to be a better moderate drinker. And then, so it's almost 3 years ago that I had a friend who was going to do a dry January. And she said, oh, why don't we try, I heard something called This Naked Mind. They have a live alcohol experiment, and we can do that at the same time as we're doing this dry January. And I said, sure. And that was it for me. It was like, so I kind of came in the side door. Like I'd always had this nagging thing that I wanted to change my relationship with alcohol, but I just didn't know how to do it. And I had so many ties to alcohol and so many thoughts about why I really needed it and wanted it. But then I did the Annie Grace's live alcohol experiment, and I just really latched onto it. It just made so much sense.
That's brilliant. I mean, It's funny how, the more times you hear someone's story, the more you realize that everybody just thought, oh, well, I was the one with the problem, and I wasn't normal, and I wish I could be normal, and why can't I drink like other people? They don't have a problem, and yeah, and it's so silly if we just put our hands up to each other, kind of thing, and people would admit that they're feeling that they're losing control, and that it's no big deal. It's nothing to be ashamed of. It's just alcohol doing its thing. Yeah, that's really really interesting to hear it from your point of view, and also that I can resonate fully with the idea that AA seemed to me to be the only thing that was available. If you had a problem, you go to AA and you admit, you've hit rock bottom, and I'm an alcoholic and I need help and I'm powerless, and you hear the story of them living day to day and never getting past it, but hanging on. And for some people, lots of people, that has been a success, but for me it just didn't speak to me. I wanted it either to not be a problem and be able to keep on doing it, or for if I had to stop, then there had to be something better than constantly looking over my shoulder. I wanted, once I did decide, okay, that I've moderated, I've tried, and failed to set boundaries, and I've had enough of the impact it was having. To at that point, I was like, well, I need to make this right. I need for it to be okay. And like you, I was fairly quickly found This Naked Mind, and they showed that then you suddenly realize that there's people out there, and there's philosophies out there and ways of thinking that you can turn it all around in your head and realize, oh, actually, I am better off without it. I can, It's not like life has to be awful without it. It's actually, it was like you said, it was holding me back, and actually this is better, that's better, this is better, that's better. And yeah, just fantastic. And so for you, how long did that take? How long did the process take before you sort of found that things were improving, and that you were comfortable in the decision that this was the right way to go?
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, I did not necessarily think that I was going to stop forever. I mean, when I did the live alcohol experiment, I was all in, and I definitely wanted to do the 30 days, but I still I think in the back of my mind thought I was still trying to be a regular drinker. But then I got to the end of the 30 days and I was like, well, that went well. I liked how I was feeling. And then I had some momentum, and I thought, well, let's just keep going. I mean, one of the things that was hard for me is that I was in the dating world, and one of the things that had stopped me for so long in really making a change is this feeling like I had to be a drinker if I was going to date. Like, who would want to, if I was showing up as a non-drinker, people would assume, that I was an alcoholic. They just wouldn't see me as funny or sexy or fun. And I had all these misguided beliefs about what that meant to be a non-drinker. So I had been still sort of holding on to that, but I was, when I went into the alcohol experiment, it was a January 1st, and I actually had a first date with somebody the next day, the January 2nd. And I was able to say, I was still sort of presenting like, okay, this is easy. I can go on this date and explain like why I'm not going to order wine because I'm just doing a dry January, so I didn't necessarily have to, to say that I'm a non-drinker necessarily. I'm doing this experiment anyway. But, I found that it went so much better than I thought it was going to be. I mean, that date, and then I ended up actually being in that relationship for 6 months or so, and then had a couple other relationships and just realized, and now I'm in a beautiful relationship with somebody who's not much of a drinker. And it's just like, I was able to dispel all these beliefs about what that meant to be, dating without alcohol. That is totally doable, and that you're not missing out.
It is totally doable, and you're not missing out. But from really early on, a lot of us have used alcohol socially to give us that courage coat, and to make us feel that we are funnier, prettier, you know, more successful, all of those things. What would you say your experiences as a non-drinking dater? Well, actually, one of the things I was going to say is that you are still a drinker. This thing about us being non-drinkers, we drink lots of different things. It's not that we're identified by this one thing, which is this, we don't get identified as non-dairy eaters or non-sugar consumers or non-wheat eaters, but we have to classify ourselves as non-drinkers. Well, actually, I am a drinker. I drink all sorts of amazing things all day long.
Right.
What would you say?
Right.
What would you say to someone that's really curious about starting this journey, dating, choosing to drink other things?
Yeah, I can really speak to this because I have been in the dating world, and I did date a lot and have relationships while I was a drinker. And when I was, as what I would define, kind of a problematic drinker too. I mean, I have, I had some bad experiences that I'm not proud of while I was drinking too much and in the dating world. And now I've experienced the dating world, and now I'm in a good committed relationship, and I've navigated that without alcohol. So I can really say it is so much better without alcohol. If you are at all feeling like your drinking is problematic, it's just so good to get a handle on that and to feel better about that, and then be in the dating world. You don't have to be a drinker. There's so many good men out there who are happy to date someone who is not, drinking to excess, is not, or not drinking at all. It's just, all of my beliefs about that have been totally turned around. They were nonsense. And it's just much better. You can make a good connection and a real connection and a true connection so much easier. It's just so much better without the haze of alcohol on top of it. And you just make better choices. And you just show up better as yourself, and they get to know the real you. It's nothing. Yeah. I was pretty wrong in some of my beliefs.
But I think it's so counterintuitive because we sort of feel, and it certainly counterculture, because the culture tells us, bit of Dutch courage, bit of, something to pep you up before you go, and when you get there, it'll settle your nerves, and of course it does all of that in a way, but it's just numbing. It's just making you care less. It's making you less authentic, but it does have that warm and makes you feel in that moment, makes you feel, stronger and more confident. Right. But I think it's natural, meeting someone for the first time and wanting it to go well, and wondering what people are going to think of you and all that kind of stuff. It's going to make you feel uncomfortable, going to make you feel nervous, and I think, and it's natural to not want that. But in the end, I think you can probably testify that if you sit with it and go through that for the first 5-10 minutes, that things will, you will calm down and actually then you can connect and have the authentic moment. I don't know if you could speak to that.
Oh, absolutely. And I actually, to be honest with you, I actually think that coming clean about being nervous is so it is endearing, and it's I think that's the way to go. I mean, men don't need to see you trying to cover it up with drinking glass after glass of wine. It's just not. There's nothing wrong with showing up on a first date and saying, "Wow, yeah, I'm so nervous. What about you?" And that's being real. And people want someone who's real, not. So, I don't know. I think it's fine to be nervous and even to have it show.
Exactly. That vulnerability and endearing quality of ourselves, that's what people are drawn towards, the truth. We're all looking for the truth and for people to like us, right? What would you say would be like hints or tips for women who are just starting on that journey, because they're sort of going, well, we always go to a bar. What type of adventures have you had and ways of dating that have been more exciting now that you're not going to a watering hole?
I mean, I do think there's so many things that people can do date-wise. So it's not like, I think a lot of people think, how could I date? Because everyone just meets for drinks. But obviously, that's not true. We don't have to do that. And I think people are happy to mix it up a bit and do something different. I mean, you could walk your dog together on a first date, Yeah, maybe picking up dog poop isn't so sexy, but I mean, you don't have to a walk, a coffee, and then there's just all kinds of fun dates in terms of whether it's going bowling, going for a hike, whatever. So I think honestly, when it's just meeting at a bar every time, that is kind of boring. But I would say to people who are, if you're just starting out and you're curious about your drinking, to stay open to changing it. And I think if drinking is really problematic to you, it's good to try to start getting that under control before dating. But I think you can be sort of sober curious, it's okay to be doing both at once, meaning dating and also working on your relationship with alcohol at the same time.
If you're looking to take back control of your drinking, why don't you join our Alcohol Freedom Finders 30-day group program? It's a great place to start because we approach it as an experiment rather than a challenge. Whereas, as well as getting a great detox, you learn the science and the psychology about why you're drunk in the first place. So whether you want to stop altogether or just become a more mindful and moderate drinker, why don't you give it a crack? Use the link in the show notes to sign up to our next Alcohol Freedom Finders 30-day program, and you won't regret it, because no one ever woke up in the morning and said, I wish I'd had more to drink last night, did they? Now, back to the episode.
I think what you touched on earlier is also, what do you say to people? And we tend to sort of, if we take a day off drinking, or we take a week off, or you go on one date and you're not drinking, you feel like you have to confess your whole life history
Right.
of drinking to them, and that's not true. I mean, you don't have to admit anything. Like you said, you could just say I'm doing dry January, or I'm driving, or I'm just doing a detox, or whatever it is that you feel comfortable with, and that's partly. We tend to overthink it and expect to be judged. So how have you had any good and bad experiences with that in the dating world, where people have? You must have been asked a few times, why are you not drinking? How have you dealt with it?
Yeah.
In subsequent occasions.
Yeah, I think we tend to assume that it's going to be really problematic, to address it, but I think we make it bigger in our heads than it really is for the most part. And I think if we just, like you said, if you're early on and you're kind of experimenting, just say, I'm taking time off, or I was overdoing it. I've been overdoing it over the holidays, and I'm trying to drink a bit less, I don't think you have to, you don't necessarily want to be defensive or, and also you don't necessarily want to be self-righteous about it either. Like, that drinking is horrible and I'm whatever. But I don't know. So I think just having an open-minded, kind of relaxed approach to it, and knowing that men are probably going to respond a lot better. And they're going to take your lead on it too. I think if you are nervous and uptight about it and defensive about it, that maybe they will, have thoughts about it that you don't want them to. But I think for the most part, just having sort of a relaxed attitude about it, saying you're being curious. And there's so many, I think people will be surprised at how many men are happy to find women out there that are addressing problem drinking. It's nobody your chances of having a nice relationship are so much better if you both have a good relationship with alcohol, whatever that means to you.
For sure.
So.
And I love the fact that you're suggesting things like going for a walk, because we don't normally walk along with a glass of wine in our hand, right? And I love the idea of taking a dog and seeing, how the other person interacts with the dog, whether they're able to pick up the whatever and put it in the bin or not. And you sort of would find out more about the other person if there's a sort of a third entity with you. It gives you a focus that's not just staring down the gunnels of each other across a table in a bar. And also it changes the narrative arc of dating, because often what we're trying to get to is, do I want to kiss this person, is the only question we're really, I'm speaking for myself here, not for others, but when I was dating, I was just trying to work out whether it was chemistry. And if you're in a bar, you're kind of shutting down lots of other avenues for exploring that. You're just looking at, is there, at the end of this night, do I or don't I want to kiss this person? And so I just wanted to speak to a little bit about the elephant in the room, which is the intimacy side of things without alcohol. Because I think maybe my fear would have been, how will I allow myself to do that if I don't have alcohol?
Yeah.
So one is go for the walk instead. I get that. But if you're in a situation where, how do you speak to that sort of intimacy side, and what's your experience?
Oh, if you're talking in terms of like the fact that a lot of women think, whoa, I could never have sex with somebody because I always have sex when I'm drinking. That's certainly not that. I find that intimacy is so much better without the haze of alcohol in general, whether it's like all types of intimacy.
Yeah.
And so I've just found it to be, I just think dating and getting to know someone and becoming intimate with them is so much better and richer and more enjoyable without the haze of alcohol. And it's just better. Not to be blunt, but sex is so much better without alcohol. And also because what comes along with like ditching alcohol is also just getting back in touch with yourself and feeling so much better about yourself. And when you feel better about yourself, that impacts your relationship and your ability to connect with somebody. That's why I feel like I don't think it's a coincidence that I've met somebody really special, that I'm in a relationship that feels good when I'm, no longer drinking problematically. I'm not drinking at all, but as you said, Justine, I still drink beverages, just not alcoholic ones.
But that's brilliant. Because what you're talking about there is actually sort of because the people will be thinking, oh, but I need it to dare to do that sort of thing, and I wouldn't have the confidence, without it. But what you're saying there is, if I'm right, is that actually, by not doing it, you develop the confidence. By not drinking, you actually develop the confidence in yourself, and you make genuine connection and
right.
And I can imagine, there's going to be so much less regret and all those sort of things that you end up doing things without thinking, I can imagine that being a real benefit.
Yeah. And you're just, to be honest, I think you're just more attractive. And that's why I think people think that you won't be successful, that you're going to have so much trouble dating. But actually, I think people often find that the reverse is true, because when you are alcohol free, you're feeling better about yourself. You're probably looking better about yourself. You're gaining confidence, whatever. That's sexy. Or not being kind of sloppy drunk,
Yeah, no, yeah. I totally agree. I had to go out last week went to a concert with my brother, and all of his old school friends were there. He's 2 years younger than me, so all of these guys were, 2 years younger than me in school. So they remember me as the kind of senior in school, and they were the juniors. So they were all like, hi. And I was like, didn't know who any of these people, well, I knew who they were, obviously, but they were boys when I last saw them. So all these men sort of asking me how things were, and I felt really good about being able to stand up and go, be proud of myself from who I was then at 17 as a, doing well senior in school, to being, a really strong, independent woman that's still confident and out, not someone that was going, oh God, this is going to be awkward and I'm going to need to have some drinks in order to do this socially. So there's so much to gain with not just dating, but, you know, after divorce, I imagine it's about all of your connections and relationships and how you actually just get back into society after drinking. So I wanted to ask you really towards the end of this conversation, speaking to that kind of all of your 3Ds. You've given us your 3 words really with the 3Ds, but what within that would you sort of say are the key things that you takeaways? What 3 words would be your key takeaways of focusing on those 3Ds?
I mean, I think just when you become alcohol free, you just get more clarity in general. So being able to deal with and navigate the difficulties of divorce and the dating world, you just like have a sense of clarity going forward. And then just, I mean, for me, possibility, it's just opened up so many different possibilities to be without alcohol. And the third word I love, I mean, the name of my business is Levity Life Coaching. So levity has to be in there. I just think just being able to deal with life in a way that's kind of lighthearted and joyful is key.
That's really good, really good. Well, I mean, it's been fantastic to catch up and to have you on the podcast. Can you tell people, you know, who resonate? I'm sure there will be lots of people who resonate with your situation and would you know benefit from spending time in coaching calls with you. So how can people get in contact with you, and who are the people you'd like to serve?
I mean, my specific specialty is around women in the divorce and dating world. So people that are struggling with drinking as they navigate those events in their life. On my website is levitylifecoaching.com and coaching on Instagram. I've finally ventured into the world of social media. I've kind of resisted it for a bit, but yeah, I can be found there or listed as a coach on this Naked Minds website as well.
Brilliant. Now, thanks so much.
Oh, thank you guys. This is wonderful. So nice to catch up with you finally.
You too, Jeanette. Thanks so much.
Alrighty. Take care, guys.